I love to play games, and today I'm going to do what I love. Buy a new game and play it. Hello everyone, and welcome to Money's Worth. This time, I bought early access to Hades 2 on Steam, and since it has a base price of €28.99, I'm going to play it for 29 hours. When I'm done, I'm going to rate it on gameplay, content, and Money's Worth. I will play it for 29 hours and be back with my ratings. And I'm back. I have now played Hades 2 for 29 hours. Since this game is ever evolving, I will stick to explaining the basics to avoid spoilers, and the clips you see are from the early game. Let's get into the review. Hades 2 is an action roguelike and is the successor to the award-winning Hades. In Hades 2, as in the previous game, you have to fight your way through encounters in the underworld to eventually defeat the final boss. If you die, you respawn in the main hub to go and try again. To fight your way through to the lowest depths, you have 3 abilities and a dash: attack, special, and cast. Cast is the same with all weapons and spawns a circle that will root enemies that touch it. Some stronger enemies will only be slowed by the cast. The dash is a short movement ability that will make you immune to all damage as the dash is performed, and then it has a short cooldown afterwards. If you hold the dash button, you will keep sprinting until released. You also have Omega moves. If you hold the button on one of your abilities, it will wind up an Omega move. Omega moves use magic and is a more powerful version of the ability. Later on, you will unlock more nocturnal arms, which are the weapons in the game. These weapons have different attacks and special abilities, with the same cast ability. The Omega attack and Omega special are also different on each weapon. Whenever you start a run, your abilities are just basic and have no modifications to them. To get modifications and upgrades for your abilities, you have to fight your way through the encounters, except in the first room, where you are offered a boon as the first thing in the run. As you finish encounters, you get between 1 and 4 portals to the next encounter. Here you choose what reward you want from the next encounter. These choices are either boons and upgrades or currency. Boons are offensive, defensive, or utility upgrades. Each god offers a certain set of boons, and you get to choose one of 3 random boons from that set. Some boons can be build breaking, but you will quickly learn what to avoid with certain builds. It is mostly random what boons you are offered, so making a certain build can be quite challenging. Getting to know the boons is important, so you can adapt your build when you get something that doesn't fit your strategy. During runs, you also find gold for killing monsters, or as a reward for an encounter. Gold is used at a vendor you can choose as an encounter reward. The vendor always offers a boon and 2 other random items. 2 of the currencies you find in your runs are used for upgrades between runs. One thing the 2 currencies can be used for is arcanas. Arcanas are perks you can use to fit your playstyle. Each card has a value and you can only have a certain sum of these values. Keepsakes are minor perks you can use for your liking in runs. A keepsake can, for example, force a certain type of boon to appear, so you can have a better chance at making the build you like. Going back to the encounters, there is a certain set of monsters that can spawn on each level, so with time you will learn each different monster's attacks and weaknesses. All monsters have projected attacks. They will shine just before an attack, and if they make a delayed area attack, you can see it on the ground. Monsters will be interrupted in their attack if you deal damage to their health. Some monsters spawn with armor that you have to get through before being able to interrupt them, so you can't always interrupt an attack and have to avoid it instead. Your dash ability comes in super handy, and it can avoid all attacks if you are skilled enough. Bosses, or guardians as they are called, are tough fights taking a few minutes to complete. The guardians have a set table of abilities, and you have to learn them to do the fight without taking damage. The abilities have a set animation to them, and all abilities can be avoided if you move correctly. In your runs you will also encounter items you can collect. Gathering these items are important since they are used for concoctions. There's a lot more to the gameplay, but I will let you explore that yourself. Let's take a look at the content. If you like my review, consider hitting that subscribe button to get notified of my new videos. At first, you just go into the deep and fight enemies to go as far as you can. Then, when you are slain, you go back to the main hub and you can use your resources to expand the game. Concoct incantations at the cauldron to add more depth to the game. All the incantations add a new element to the game or expand on something you've already added. And since you add something between most runs, you feel like the game is evolving and increasing complexity. Since the runs you do are random to a certain point, most runs feel different. And since the boosts you get are somewhat random too, you are forced into trying out variations of the builds you like to use. The different weapons also add another dimension to the game, and adds a challenge of trying to complete the final boss with all weapons. Even though I find myself to be a decent gamer, it took me all 29 hours to get a run where I defeated the last boss in the underworld. To not spoil anything for you, I can't really say more about the content. I promise you, there is more than enough to do. Let's get into the ratings. Hades 2 is just a great game, and is worthy to be the successor to the first Hades. It brings the smooth and difficult gameplay of its predecessor with new weapons, boons, enemies, and bosses. Every time you die, you are usually at fault, and self-improvement is needed to finish the game. I only encountered small bugs, and the gameplay feels like a finished game. I rate the gameplay a 5 out of 5. The content is ever evolving. At first, the game is simple, and there is nothing other than just go and fight. The The more you play, the deeper the content becomes, and the game feeds you these additions in a pace that is digestible, and it just works perfectly. I rate the content a 5 out of 5. Hades 2 is in the medium price category at 29 euros and is worth every cent. The game is crisp with very few bugs. The content is evolving as you play and is difficult enough to challenge most gamers. They don't have to add a lot more to deliver an award-worthy game, and I would recommend this game to every gamer who loves a challenge. I rate the money's worth a 5 out of 5. I hope you found out if Hades 2 will be your money's worth at release. You can also look through my other videos to see if you can find games that will be your money's worth. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.